One of the biggest myths in sports is that you're either fast or you're not. Well, recent advancements in sports performance training prove that any athlete can get faster, just like you can get stronger or improve your sports skills. Hi, I'm Andy Haley, and I'm the Performance Director at STAC. And here with me today is Ken Vick, who's the High Performance Director at STAC Sports Performance Training. And we're here to tell you that you can get faster with the right techniques and methods. Ken, I know you work with a ton of athletes. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience and how you got into training?
I've been fortunate. I've got to do this now for over 20 years, and I've been able to work with athletes in lots of different sports. Over 24 sports, 17 countries. It's been great. And doing that, you learn a lot of different things. So one of the things I get to take away is by going to each sport, there's stuff I learned from those top coaches, from each athlete in the different environments. It's been a great experience. A lot of things I've learned over the years.
That's great, Ken. So when an athlete comes to you and asks if they can actually get faster, what do you tell them?
Hands down, you can. Now, I'm not going to tell you you're going to go out and win the 100 meters at the Olympics and win the gold. Okay, for that, you got to have the right genetics, the right parents, the right history. But every single athlete can get faster. Speed is a skill. Okay, speed is a skill. And like any other skill, you can improve it. We've seen athletes from the NFL, hundreds of them, put 20 athletes in the first round of the NFL draft, been able to go around the world, had athletes from 17 different countries, national teams, U.S. cycling, U.S. soccer, Chinese Olympic Committee, a lot of different places, and consistently, every single sport, athletes want to move faster.
So Ken, with all those athletes that you worked with, what are some of the things that you do to actually help them get faster?
That's a great question because they all want to get faster, but they don't always need the exact same thing. So when we look at speed, we look at it, as a science as well as an art. How do you achieve that? So the science, we know the formula for speed. Okay, there's four main pieces. You got to be able to apply a big force to the ground in a really small time. That's running fast, right? But you also have to do it in the proper direction. Really important, proper direction. And then you got to move your body through the optimal range of motion. So if it's acceleration, if it's maximum velocity, if it's change of direction, those pieces of the formula change a little bit. And that's why you got to use the right type of program. We have to make sure we're hitting all four pieces in the right way so we can make them as fast as they can be.
Ken, can you go into more depth on what the big four are and how athletes can work on them?
Yeah, so we got four things, right? So let's talk about the big force. We got to be able to apply a big force to the ground. So how do you do that? Well, you talk about big force, one of the first things that comes to mind is strength training. Okay, so go out, do strength training. Great, you're going to get faster, but you got to make it specific. So if I want an athlete getting faster, and I'm talking about applying force to the ground, okay, I need them to focus on drills that are going to build that kind of power, that kind of explosiveness. Strength's good. Look, I was a strength coach for a lot of years, but you need the specific type of strength. So what are we going to do for big force? Well, in the weight room, we might go in there and now we're going to work with an Olympic lift. We're going to really focus on using that lower body, great posture, and driving through the ground. Same thing they're doing when running. Same body parts, same muscle groups, same power output they need. So great example for the weight room. Now we're going to take that farther. Big force isn't just something that happens in the weight room. It's also something we got to develop out on the field. So one of our favorite drills to make sure an athlete can give a big force into the ground is bounding.
Start by balancing yourself on one foot. Drop your hips and swing the opposite leg backward, then leap as far as you can, using your arms to help you gain momentum and distance for your leaps. Make sure to land softly and finish each bound in a squat position as you catch your weight. With the double leg bounds, your feet should be shoulder width apart and your weight should be evenly distributed between both feet. Drop your hips and explode forward as far as you can, using your arms as momentum. Make sure to land softly and finish each bound in a squat position as you catch your weight.
If you use bounding drills and you apply that force to the ground, now you're building a transfer. You've been in the weight room doing this, you're using explosive lifts, you're out on the field doing the bounding, you're teaching your body how to apply a big force. Here's the tip. use both of them. That's the key piece. We get athletes doing one or the other. You got to use both. So today, go out and make sure you've combined both in your program. Make sure you have a program that's using both of those.
What are some of the things you look for in an athlete as it relates to big force?
Yeah, I mean, we want to look for body posture, so that's a key piece. Another thing we want to look for is symmetry or asymmetry. Most athletes aren't totally equal side to side, and that can be a big limitation. Out there on the field, when you're going up against an opponent, they're going to pick up on cues if you can't go one way or the other, if one leg's stronger than another. Another part, if you are imbalanced between your legs, your risk of injury goes up. So when we're watching a guy run, cut, move as a coach, I'm trying to see, are they equal side to side? When we get an athlete, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to test exactly that. So here's an easy thing that athletes can do at home. You want to check how you are on one leg. You can do this. You can do a vertical jump on one leg, but what we're going to usually do is do a horizontal jump. We're going to do a triple jump. So single leg, 3 jumps, how far can they get? Other leg, 3 jumps, how far can they get? Are these things close? Because they should be really close. If you are talking more than a few inches difference, you got to start looking deeper and going, what's going on here? It also means, though, there's an opportunity to get better. So if they have a difference between the legs, we got something to work on. Small time, okay? That's the second piece of that speed formula. Well, when an athlete's running, obviously their foot's not in contact with the ground very long. We're talking maybe 100 milliseconds at full speed running. Now, when we think about strength and force, right, somebody's doing a heavy squat, that might take a couple seconds to do. Well, I don't have a couple seconds when I'm running fast to apply the force. So we need forces that are applied in a small time. Now, the next thing we got to do is we have to improve their ability to apply force in a small time. So how are we doing that? Well, again, we're going to get out there on the field and we're going to work in the weight room. So when I'm doing some of my Olympic lifts, man, everybody loves getting in there and lifting big weights, but some of the times it's not about a heavier weight, it's about moving the weight faster. So we're always coaching our athletes, move that weight fast, apply the force fast. That's a big deal, and that's a key. This is the little program details that make a difference. If you're just lifting a heavy weight but you're grinding it out, there's a place for it, but that's not what I want in that Olympic lift. I want it fast, okay? So that's a place in the weight room we're gonna work on that. We're gonna do that with jumps. When we're out there and we have different jumps in the program, whether they're on the field or the weight room, those are also going to help. And then when I get into some of my technical drills, this is where we're going to work on moving through a fast range of motion, doing these things in a small time. So again, we got to put that combination of both on the field small time and in the weight room small time. Our third piece is proper direction. Okay, we got to apply force, but you got to apply it in a direction. Force, if we get all biomechanics here, right? Force is a vector. It has a direction. It doesn't just exist. It always applies one way. If you're applying it the proper way, you're moving where you want to go and you're being efficient. If some of it's kind of going off other directions, that's not going to work. So, are you applying the force in the proper direction? So one of the key places we work with the athletes here is on the field. This is the big one, making sure they have those technical drills. All right, the fourth component in that formula is optimal range of motion. And this one is the one that athletes are like, oh man, right? I mean, that ain't sexy. Stretching, what, range of motion? But here's the thing, it's how you get more force. So think about the first piece of optimal range of motion, right? You're running through that max velocity phase. That leg's getting up there. Well, if my foot's driving a longer distance down into the ground, how much force can I apply? Compared to if I only get my foot a little bit off the ground and drive, that's pretty simple. You didn't need to go get a degree in biomechanics to figure that out, right? If I have more room to drive down, Now I can apply more force. Okay, so range of motion matters. It affects all the other things. So we got to make sure an athlete has the optimal range of motion. A few of the things we're going to look at when we're going through with an athlete. We're going to look at the basic flexibility, first of all, right? Do their hamstrings move through a big enough range of motion? Do their hip flexors? Those are key. And those are easy tests we're going to do, and people can even check at home. Laying down on the ground, back flat, bringing that leg up straight. Can you get it back far enough? Can you get it to 90 degrees? That's optimal. Now, if you can get that, your ankle so that it's at least to mid-thigh, that's acceptable. But anything less than that, and it's not going to be efficient running, it's also going to put you at a little bit more risk of potential injury. So basic tests we can do to look at. Then we got to get it better. So we're going to work on optimal range of motion by doing a few things. We're going to get out there and we're going to use those foam rollers and we're going to combine them with a stretch. We do that in each session. Okay? They're there at the end of the program so that you can improve your range of motion. You got to have it. There's another place we work range of motion. That's when we're out there doing those technical drills. A lot of people don't know some of those track technical drills. They're not to teach the perfect mechanics. They're actually reinforcing the optimal range of motion. They're making sure you're getting a dynamic stretch day in and day out. So those track drills help build an optimal range of motion. Then finally, we're going to go into the weight room and we're going to make sure you're doing the right type of lifting that gets you through a full range of motion. If I'm getting in there and I'm acting like a bodybuilder, I'm acting like a power lifter, those are great if you're doing those. But if you want to be an athlete who's fast, you got to make sure these lifts take you through a full range of motion so your muscles know how to do that. So optimal range of motion is the one that people don't get excited about. Man, it can make a difference.
That all sounds great, Ken. So what kind of results can an athlete expect from working on the Big Four?
Yeah, I mean, when you start off, that's always your question, right? You get timed, you find out how fast you are. It's like, all right, how much better can I get? Well, from seeing thousands of athletes from all these levels, can tell you, a young athlete that's developing, man, they can make some huge differences, okay? You easily have 0.2 seconds in your 40. You better get that, okay? Doing basic training that we're gonna have you do, you got that. If you're really doing it well and you had more opportunity, you might drop 0.6 to a second if your time wasn't as fast. So you can make a big difference.
Thank you so much for all that great info, Ken. I think those 4 pillars are really going to help athletes get faster.